Hello, everybody. I have stopped my morning ritual to speak with you early in my morning ritual. um, I'm very excited to share a thought that I just had. Ooh, and a big old zit. Look at that. I'll fix it later. You don't want to see me fix it on video. Anyway, I am enjoying myself here in Athens, Georgia. I'm making some new friends, and it's always nice to settle down in a place for a little while on my travels. And I was going through my morning ritual, and I realized that I'm getting better at something very crucial. I'm getting better at taking out a step from my thought process, a step that is unnecessary and unhealthy. It's the judgment step. It's it's hard to talk about because I jumped on the video right after I did it because I just barely noticed that I did it. As my self awareness improves, as I practice self awareness, it may be an inborn talent like music, but it's also something that you practice like music. And anyway, as I work on my self awareness and practice it, and I noticed there was a thought in between a couple thoughts. There was a thought that said, hey, um, you just skipped a step. And then another thought that said, oh, that's okay. That's not a step I need to go into. Because I'll have a thought or I'll be making a choice or making a decision. And at some point in my decision making process, there's this idea of, is this good? What will other people think? Will I get in trouble with my parents? All this stuff that I picked up as a kid. And there's this step in the middle. And I realized that it's not necessary. I've realized that many times. And I'll consciously stop it if I can, if it doesn't spiral out of control and get into a big negative spiral, which, used to happen. But now I just skip right over it. I just say, oh, that's unnecessary. I certainly don't enjoy what comes from negativity, and it's not something I need. So yeah, there's this judgment phase that comes in that I just don't bother with anymore. I don't, indulge in it and let it go to its negative places. I don't feel threatened by it. I don't feel that if I skip it, I'm somehow in danger. Because that's really what it is. It's a coping mechanism. It's the let's be extra, extra sure that whatever I'm about to do isn't going to, make anyone upset who's, a powerful person in my life. Um, I just do it. I just make a decision. I find that I'm thinking faster. I find that I'm making decisions faster in general, as well as not allowing any judgment to come in. As I may have said on the show before, another technique that really helps mentally is when I feel a big decision coming on, there's a bit of stress, like, oh, I'm going to have to make a decision. Is it going to be this or that? Often on my trip, it's logistical stuff. Like, today I'm dealing with some potential rain later in the evening, so I'm trying to plan my day to get all the stuff done I need to get done and then still have, myself tucked into a nice rain camp by the end of it. Um, if you see me looking away, I'm filling in a hole at the same time that I'm talking with you because, yes, it is going to rain soon enough and I want to get some stuff done. But it's really important to talk with you guys. And when I feel that, I pop on the video, regardless of what's going on in my life, because I know that you are very important. Good. Got that done. So, now let me jump back in and wrap up with you guys before I move on my day. Okay. So, there's all these mental aspects, and like I said, there's tricks. The one trick is just noticing myself getting healthier, noticing myself not getting hung up on stuff, noticing myself not taking so many steps in a decision and being worried and overthinking things because I have to examine all the potential dangers. That's something I did when I was younger, when there were potential dangers. Now there are not. And I'm learning to let go of that and to feel safe when I let go of that. That being said, I also promised you another trick, which is the timing trick. The idea of timing is, how do I say it? if I feel a decision coming on, I was using the example of today with the rain. If I feel that coming on and I need to make some decisions that are smart for the rain, I don't have to make those decisions right now. For example, last night I said, okay, well, I need to get some stuff done before tomorrow night, before the rain. And then I told myself, I don't need to think about those right now. What I need to do right now is go to sleep so I can get up at a good time and have, some good time that it isn't raining to get that stuff done. Run my errands and do my stuff. So, what I'm learning is making decisions in the right moment. Like, even when I got up this morning, I started thinking about stuff like, I'm going to be in my rain camp, so I'm going to want some supplies to get me through the rain. What do I want from the store? Blah, 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 blah. I don't have to write a grocery list right now. I really need to do that, maybe at the store, figure out what I want, or maybe when I'm deciding how many bags to put on my bike to hold how much stuff from the store. Like, maybe then I'll think about that stuff. But I don't have to think about it now. Yes, it's important to think about. Yes, it's something I need to do today. It's something that if I don't do, I'll have a pretty unfortunate, next day and a half. There's stuff that I want to get done. But it's not super essential to think about it right now. It's detrimental. The trick is to think about it when it comes up. And this has been one of the biggest gifts of my trip, is learning to slow down my mind by doing simpler things and watching my mind, by not running around doing so many activities, making a ton of money and then spending a ton of money, making fewer decisions so I can watch myself make them. And when I feel stress in any part of my day or any part of a decision chain or a chain of habits or whatever, being aware of it, not judging it, and just kind of allowing it to come to the surface and letting it go, pulling it out, weeding it out. Not getting mad at it. You don't want to get mad at the weeds in your garden. That'll just make gardening no fun. You just want to say, okay, well, I don't allow these in here. And of course, the seeds of weeds float into my garden from wherever. There's no way to stop that. Just as in your mind, you're going to have things pop up. And you're going to have old stuff come up, and you're going to have random thoughts, like when you're meditating, and you don't want to be angry about them. Just observe them, know they're there, and let them go away kind of at their own pace, or at your own pace. You don't want to push yourself to let go of everything and become enlightened tomorrow. Someone said, what's the point of coming to this place if you're only trying to become enlightened and go back to wherever we came from? Go back to that oneness. I think the point of meditation and finding oneness is, even as a couple, even in sacred sexuality, I think the whole point of that is finding oneness as a respite, as a validation of hopes, as a way to know that the world is bigger and more awesome than we can perceive here in this reality, by looking through the window at the infinite from this illusion of separation and a finite world. So, yeah, I think it's still worth, finding your channel to oneness, having those experiences like Satori of getting a glimpse, just a brief idea of, the divine. So, like I said, mentally, I tell myself it isn't time to think about this or it isn't time to think about that. And sometimes that helps me. Not having to figure out everything right now, putting off decision making until it's the right time. Because the longer you wait, the closer you'll be to the event, so it'll be easier to predict things, especially things like weather. Procrastinating that kind of stuff really helps because you don't need to figure everything out right now in the moment. It's too much. Usually there's one thing to do right now that's, going to be good and great for you. And that's what you should do. There's one thing that feels right to do right now. If you're going to sleep, Don't think about tomorrow. Go to sleep. It'll make tomorrow better if you get more sleep. So, yeah, the timing thing is really important. Wait until the right moment to make a decision. Don't put it off beyond that right moment. If I don't decide what I want at the grocery store until after I leave the grocery store and I don't pick up the stuff that I want, okay, then I have to go back or I have to do without. That's no fun. But I don't have to think about it now. I'm here to talk to you. So, how do I say it? Wait until the last possible moment because you now doesn't know as much as you in that moment. You'll be closer to the event, easier to predict things, like I said. You'll also be just a little bit more grown up and a little bit wiser. And I find that's a really good way for me to release not just overthinking, but thinking things too soon, figuring out the future too much, and just doing what needs to be done right now instead of trying to do what needs to be done right now, what needs to be done in 10 minutes, figuring out what needs to be done later in the day, later in the week, later in the year. It's a great mental exercise. It's like a game or a puzzle where we can figure out, well, if things go this way in 3 months, then I will do this strategy in my life. Boo. You don't know which way it's going to go. Maybe you're going to be here. Maybe you're going to be there. Maybe you're going to be with someone. Maybe you're going to be single. Maybe you're going to be doing this job. Maybe you're going to be doing that job. You don't know what's going to happen. And figuring out all that stuff, worrying about it. Worrying is when figuring turns negative, right? Future projections and planning can turn negative and it becomes worrying. Like, yeah, you want to be prepared for whatever might come. You don't want to be, putting yourself too much in danger. It's nice to have savings. It's nice to have some, like I have equipment that'll help me camp and get around the place and do my job and my computer. I have stuff and plans for, the near future and what I'm probably going to do. But the trick is to keep that as light as possible and not make a big deal out of it. Um, you know, I used to overthink a lot. I used to just voluntarily figure out every future path on my, potential future on my radar, just in case. But, we're not at war. We're not in danger on any of those paths. We're not, you know, on the edge of ruin like a corporation that plans out every possible thing that could happen because they don't want to lose their shareholders or lose profit and all of a sudden fall apart, and they are super paranoid about staying profitable and showing a certain amount of growth. We're not in those situations. That's not who we are. So we're not on a survival level. Like I said, it's not war or financial survival that we're worried about. It's not, this crisis. In a crisis, we do scheme and plan more. I honestly think that the whole concept of using our minds to plan and using our minds to figure things out, I think that it's connected to the fight and flight mechanism. There may be a way to separate them and use the mind in healthy ways that aren't connected to panic and stress and physical damage and premature aging and all that stuff. But what's really important is simply turning that mechanism off, letting the mind turn off. I didn't even know it was possible to turn the mind off. I just lived in my mind all the time, didn't realize there was anything else to me, to the detriment of my body and soul, whatever that is, and all the other parts of me. I just focused on my mind because I honestly thought it was the only thing that was me, and I also thought that if I didn't, I would die. I couldn't survive. Things would become disastrous. And that's fear that, may be wired into us and is certainly encouraged by many aspects of our society. So, that was a big rant. The trick is observe your mind, notice when you're making choices. I find choices to be more stressful than just having thoughts. Though reliving negative experiences from the past and maybe trying to figure out them, make different choices and all that, maybe that's another thing to look out for, but usually it's just choices as I make them. And noticing the ones that have a negative feeling to them. And then say, do I really need to feel this way about this choice? Also, putting things off when I feel rushed. Even if it's not a negative choice, going to the grocery store today is not a negative choice. I don't feel bad about it. I know that it needs to be done by a certain time, and I don't like to be limited, so I feel a little bit bad about being limited. Um, and I don't want to allow myself to feel rushed or that I have to figure all these things out now before the rain. I'm an experienced camper. I know how to handle rain. I know how to deal with stuff. I know how to handle logistics. And weed out these tiny things from your mind. Weed out these tiny little unnecessary bits in a chain of thought. And notice when you have success, like I did today. Notice yourself just making a decision. Just thinking about something, either putting that decision off till later when you have more information, uh, choosing a time. It often helps to say, oh, I need to think about this, tomorrow afternoon, or I need to think about this Thursday morning, or I need to think about this whatever. That kind of thought can really help because it's not just that you're putting it off for all time. You can just say, not now. And some people may write this down like, ooh, I need to think about this and I'm going to do it later at such and such a time. I do that in my work if I'm in a phase like I am right now where I'm learning new work and I'm studying things. I'm trying to do something new and put together a new income stream. Maybe I'll talk about the e-commerce income stream that I'm putting together on a future video. But that's something that's in the pipe. And as I'm working on this new project and learning and trying to figure things out, trying to, put things together the right way the first time so I have some success that's encouraging and, set myself up for a positive experience, yeah, I want to have as much, early success as I can with this business. So I'm, writing down my concerns of things that might stand in the way of that. And I'm not dealing with them right now, but I write them down so that I remember to do them later. That being said, in your daily life, I don't know that that's appropriate. I'm not going to forget to go get groceries. I know that I need to go get groceries and get back here before it rains. That I know, you know? So I wouldn't overdo it if I were you. I wouldn't write down everything. I tend to do that with new things, and then sometimes I forget as I make new things part of my life and part of a regular habit. I forget to let up. I forget to weed out those things that I don't need. Those things in my decision chain, or maybe those things I used to keep track of for my business that I don't really need to keep track of anymore, that just stress me out, create extra work, and create pressure. For example, in my freelancing work, I used to keep track of my hourly wage very carefully. I used to keep track of when I was doing work, kind of to keep track of how productive I was when I was working, when I was playing, how much money I was making per hour, and I just let go of all those calculations. I just keep track of, well, I made this much today for this client, or I finished this job, or it's not finished yet, and I have to work on it tomorrow and finish it up, or whatever it is. Edging more towards a weekly than a daily, or an hourly, or a minutely idea of time. And it's funny, I cut that out of my decision chain, out of my work habits, right? Maybe not decisions, but a habit chain, just things that I always do. And I don't need to do that. And I catch myself like, oh, I don't have to write down all that stuff, or I don't have to think about all that stuff, or I don't have to judge whether or not I made this much money on this job, or how much I made per hour, and whether I should really do this job because maybe I'm not making so much in the right amount of time. If I feel that way, if I feel that a certain job maybe isn't paying enough for how long it takes, I can do the calculation. But I don't have to do the calculation on everything all the time. I understand my job pretty well, and I have a good idea of which jobs to take and which ones not to. So I don't need to minutely calculate everything. And that's the idea. Do it on new things. Do it on new projects. Do it when it matters. Just not all the time. Some of my old friends from back in the Rockstar days who encouraged me not to think as much may feel vindicated by this post. I honestly didn't understand what they meant by overthinking when they talked about it because I'm good at thinking and I was doing it all the time and thought that was the way to live, thought that was the best way to be. So I didn't really understand what they were trying to tell me, and they weren't in a place to tell me in a way that I could get, you know. They knew I was doing wrong, but they didn't know how to tell me or help me out of the wrong. So all they could do was point it out, which is judgment. And, you know, I assume they were trying to help, but at the same point, if you can't help me get out of the pit, just saying, hey, dude, you're in a pit, it could really only come off annoying or negative. But I will just hold in my heart that they were trying to help. That's what I will believe about the past. So, reframing, as you can see, I just did about the past. Awareness of your progress, awareness of cutting things out, awareness of that weird feeling of like, oh, I don't have to keep track of all of this as I work. I don't have to, I can just work when I feel like it and take a break when I feel like it. I don't have to keep track of everything. You know, be aware of how it feels to do something new, to let go of something that you don't need. And if you do feel you need it, you can bring it back, but maybe not all the time. Weeding stuff out, even in those little daily decisions that we make. Decisions of what should I do now? You know, creating a daily habit chain to run errands or do work or whatever we do in our daily life. You know, that sitting down with like the mental or physical to-do list and saying, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm going to do this, that, the other thing. Well, does it have to be a big deal? No. You know, every day we sit down and plan out our days, as I was when I was triggered to record this video. But you know what? It's very easy to think fast and correctly without any judgment or the negative kind of mental spirals that come from that judgment, which can waste precious seconds or hours of, or even days of negativity. By taking out the judgment from the decision-making process and just making a decision based on what you want to do, you could really save yourself a lot of time and energy, emotional energy, physical energy, all of that, and really get more out of your life. Be more productive by not making as many plans and choices and goals. Be more productive by just doing what you want all the time. You know, it's very simple. If you do what you want all the time, you'll get what you want. But we can sometimes make things more complicated than they are. So let me leave it there. I'm going to go off and have a wonderful day and tuck in and stay dry during some rain. So I always make time for you guys, even on my so-called busy or whatever deadline kind of days. I don't record every day, but when I do feel the urge, I certainly record because you guys are really valuable to me, and speaking with you and connecting with you and knowing that you're out there really means so, so much to me. So, check me out at joeneely.net/community. That is Neely. That's how you spell my last name. Yeah, on the community page, you can find out all the stuff, all the different ways to reach me on social media and this and that. So I don't have to say it right now. Yeah, joeneely.net/community. And you can find lots of wonderful ways to connect with me and with each other, the people who love this show. I love you all very much. And have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.